Let's take a look at our Adfontes data platform and rating system so you can understand how we rate news sources and other information sources for reliability and bias. Adfontes data platform is an interactive visualization on which we plot thousands of news sources that we've rated. What I'm showing you are just the web sources that we have. These are sites that are on the open web that are news and news-like information. And people get their information from things that are other than just particular news sources like we think of traditionally, but also from blogs, fake news sites, and everything in between. So we've got a reliability axis, and from top to bottom, generally above 40 in our system is highly reliable. This is fact reporting, analysis, investigative reporting, the things that journalists do. In between 24 and 40, sort of a mixed bag. It's a lot of analysis content and a lot of opinion content. And our news landscape is actually full of this kind of stuff. Lots of pundits, lots of takes. Generally towards the top, like closer to 40 is better, down up to 24, it starts to get worse, more problematic. And then you've got the section between 16 and 24. That's what we call a problematic section. Things can be, worse than opinion, but not quite misleading or inaccurate. The stuff that is misleading or inaccurate, we put below 16 and 8 on an article by article basis. When we talk about bias, left to right, that seems a little bit more intuitive, but notice a couple things. We're not saying the middle is best. Middle is just middle, right? Things can fall in the middle because they're minimally biased, or they're centrist, which is a bias, or because they're balanced, like showing, two or more sides of a thing. So you notice that there are things that are at the top that are in the middle, higher reliability, but then there are things that are in the middle that are not very good. Okay, so middle is just middle, but then you go left and right, skews and strong, hyperpartisan left and right, most extreme left and right. There's nothing wrong with liberal, conservative viewpoints or ideologies, moral foundations. We actually need these and need to be able to debate them to move forward as a society. But the further out you go in terms of bias, the higher correlation there is with low reliability in our modern news landscape. So we rate, like I said, pretty much everything that people get their information from. And so this can be sources like the New York Times, right? New York Times skews left, mix of fact reporting and analysis. Its overall score is there because it's got some highly reliable, minimally biased articles. And then also it's got some opinion, left-leaning content that pulls it over to this side. Then you've got stuff from the Wall Street Journal, which has a similar profile over to the right. When you look at sources that are more biased, these tend to be the ones that partisans on certain sides love them. Partisans on the other side really hate them. But they've got quite the mix of stuff that's fine and stuff that's pretty out there. These aren't the worst things that are out there in the news landscape. We've also got things like stuff much lower left, much lower right. And how do we come up with these ratings? Well, we have panels of analysts. If you look at each of these individual dots, each of these dots represents an article, or in the case of TV and podcasts, an episode that our analysts have sat together and read together and rated together according to our methodology. Quick look into that. We have a backend platform called CART, Content Analysis Rating Tool. And when an analyst goes in to rate that in a shift, our analysts are doing this all day, every day in shifts on Zoom, one right, one left, one center. The article will appear in there and they'll go ahead and read it. And we pull a bunch of different stats about it, like word count, parts of speech. We parse out the content, and then they have a blank media bias chart with a bunch of vertical and horizontal rating rubric factors. We train each of our analysts on these factors with about 30 hours of training before they start, and then 40 hours of annual ongoing training. So they submit their scores, they look at each other's scores, discuss if there's any discrepancies, and those overall scores are what inform the scores on the media bias chart. And we do it with a fairly large sample. Currently to date, over 53,000 articles and episodes manually rated, which forms the basis for what we believe is the largest training data set for machine learning in the world.